Today we are continuing to talk about domain and range. So what we have been doing for continuous relationships is writing our domain and range as intervals. Well, today we are going to write them as inequalities. So I'm going to teach you how to write your domain and range as an inequality. After we finish, this will be what you work on the rest of the class period. Okay, so put this away for now and only have out these notes, or you can just look at mine and then this. So go ahead and fold this in half. So this will make, remember hamburger fold when we used to do that? We're going to do notes, just a little bit of notes on here so that'll help us with the examples that are inside. So the title of these notes is Domain and Range of Continuous Relations Using Inequalities. Okay, we're going to talk about domain first. So we know that domain is all the possible x values. Whenever we are doing continuous relationships, that's whenever you have a graph that has points that are connected. If they're not connected, then it's just discrete. So with continuous, the only way to name all the possible points that x or y can be is to write it as it's the values between -2 and +1. So it could be -1.3 or 0.001. The only way to list those out is using an interval or an inequality. So the way that we'll do domain with inequalities is called a compound inequality, where you put x in the middle and you write the two different numbers that x is between from least to greatest, and then you use less than or a less than or equal to symbol. So these are just two numbers that x is between. The less than means that it's not actually, that number isn't actually included. It has to be like an open circle. Do y'all remember the open circle whenever we graphed inequalities? Kind of like whenever you look at this, open circle means that number is not actually included, so we'll use the less than symbol. So I'm going to put here open circle, which is similar to when we did parentheses on the interval. If it has the less than or equal to, then that is whenever it's a closed circle. Similar to when we do the bracket. So we'll do an example of just domain first. And we're going to look at this example. So we're going to use this example from our notes from the other day. So for domain, we're still looking at from left to right. So we list them out in order from least to greatest, just like we did the intervals. And then we're going to use a less than or a less than or equal to. So it's going to be -4 is less than x is less than or equal to 3. This is the same thing as writing it like the interval. It was parenthesis. -4, comma 3 with a bracket. These are two different ways of writing your domain for this graph right here. So parenthesis goes with if it doesn't actually touch. Bracket goes if it does touch. Same thing with less than or equal to is bracket. Parenthesis is just less than. So what this means is x is between -4 and 3. So let's do the range now. With the range, we're going to do it the same way. You can have a less than or equal to. Just depends on what the situation is, what the graph looks like, if it actually touches that number or not. But what will change is the y value. That'll become y. The x becomes y. So an example would be a number is less than or equal to y is less than or equal to another number. So this is the least number, the smallest number, and this is the biggest number. So an example would be this one right here. So this was -3, -3. It went down to -3 and up to 3. You're using the same numbers. We're just writing it as an inequality. So example, so -3 is less than or equal to y is less than or equal to 3. And that's this example. So remember, this was how far down, and this was how far up. And we use the or equal to symbol because it actually touches -3 and it touches 3. The example with the interval was this, the bracket -3, comma 3. Okay, so this was from example 1. We're going to go to this next one, example 3. So for number 3, the domain is from left to right. So in this case, it was -infinity to +infinity. -infinity to +infinity. So as an inequality, we fill in the -infinity and +infinity where the two numbers would be like this. So it'd be -infinity is less than x is less than infinity. We always use that less than symbol because we're putting them in order from smallest to largest. An easier way to write this, though, is it's any number between -infinity and +infinity. So it is all real numbers. And so you can write out numbers. You can put the little number symbol. So using the same example, number 3, let's do the range. The range is down to -2 and up to infinity. So it's -2 to infinity. So the y values are -2 or greater. That's what that means. We can write it as the inequality -2. Since it does include the -2, it's going to be less than or equal to y is less than infinity. You can't touch infinity, so that's why we only use the less than symbol and not less than or equal to. So what this really means is -2 is less than or equal to y is less than infinity. So we could actually write this in a simpler way as y has to be greater than or equal to -2. See how it's at -2 or greater. So this is actually an easier way to write it. If you only have one number to infinity, you can say y is greater than or equal to -2. If it's going the opposite way, then y would be less than or equal to that number. Okay, so we're going to do the problems inside now. Okay, so domain and range. So domain is our x values. And to write them as an inequality, we would do the left and the right. And the range is the y values, which is how far down to how far up. So we're doing the same exact thing with domain and range, just we're writing it as an inequality instead of an interval. So I'm going to use my different colors. I'm going to use blue for domain for the left and right. I'm going to use green for the range. If you don't like doing the colors, you don't have to. If the colors help you visualize it better, then use them. Okay, so let's look at the first one. So left to right. So how far left does it go?
4.
Yep. Left is -4. And then how far right? So our domain is -4 is our smallest x value. Does it actually touch -4? Yeah, we got this closed circle. So less than or equal to x. Does it actually touch the +4? So less than or equal to +4. If it doesn't touch it, if it's an open circle, then it would be just less than.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay, now let's do how far down to how far up. How far down? -3. How far up? So this will be -3. It touches it, so it's less than or equal to. Range is our y value, so we fill in the y. And then it goes up to 3, and it touches 3, so less than or equal to 3.
Wait, so it's an open circle, it doesn't touch it?
Correct. Yeah, like the next one, open. So it doesn't actually touch it, so we'll just use the less than symbol instead. All right, so let's do the next one. Domain. How far left? I'm not going to fill in that circle. I'm going to leave it open like that. And then how far right? So I'm building my fence. Remember, we're going from left to right. So left, -3. Right, +3. So it's -3 It's an open circle, so it doesn't actually touch. So it's going to be less than. And we're dealing with domain, so it's the x values. It's less than 3. Okay. Range is how far down. So how far down does it go? It goes down to -3. Then it goes up to +3. That's -5 is what I wrote, but I said the wrong thing. Sorry. So goes down to -5. It does not touch, so we're just going to use the less than symbol. It's range, so it's your y values. And it goes up to 3 without actually touching. Less than 3. Okay, let's go to the next one. Domain is how far left. And how far right. It's included because it actually touches it on both sides. It touches it. So they're both less than or equal to. And then our range, how far down and how far up. So it's this curve. This is actually called a parabola, which we'll see this later when we learn about quadratic functions. But it goes down to the -5 and then shoots back up. It does touch it. So -5 is less than or equal to y is less than or equal to 4. You feel like you're getting the hang of it? Maybe. Okay, let's go to number 4. So remember when we make our fence, we're making a rectangle. So don't do any diagonals or anything like that for domain. You're making a rectangle. So left side, it's at -4. Right side, it's at +5. So make sure that you have the same thing as me. And then do your range. In my first class, this is what kind of got them. They're like, where do I put the line? If you put it here, that includes the whole thing. And that's our goal. We want to include the whole thing. If I put it here, that cuts it off. So you're not putting a fence around it. You left some of it out of the fence. So we have to put it around the whole function. So that's why it's going to go down to -3. And then it goes up to +3. It does not touch -3. See the open circle? So it's just going to be less than y. But the top, does it actually touch 3? Does it touch the fence? It does. It doesn't have an open circle there, so it does touch the fence. So we're going to say less than or equal to 3. Okay, go ahead and do 5 and 6. Okay, so hopefully you've had time to do that. So let's look at domain. And it is left to -4. It's open circle, so it's just less than x. Then it goes right to +3, so less than or equal to 3. The next one, range. This is how we include the whole thing. We go all the way down to 3. It's a closed circle, so it's less than or equal to y. Goes up to +4. If I try to just go through this one, it's going to cut a bunch off. So it's up to 4, and it touches, so less than or equal to 4. Okay, the next one, left side, right side, so left -5, right +4. So it's -5, less than or equal to x, less than or equal to 4. And then to include the whole thing, I'm going to have to go all the way down to 5 and up to 5. So it's going to be -5. It touches, so less than or equal to y, and it touches this up here, less than or equal to 5. Hopefully you're feeling more comfortable with it. Hopefully. Okay, let's look at number 7. Domain. I cannot draw a fence on the left or the right because the arrows. So what is the domain? Negative infinity, positive infinity. Can I just write all real numbers? So much easier, right? Okay, let's do our range. Can I do a fence on the bottom or a fence on the top? So it's all real numbers.
Could you work it out if you wanted to?
Like put the negative infinity, positive infinity? Yes, you can. Okay, number 8. We cannot put a left side or a right side fence because it goes on and on. So it's all real numbers. I can't put a fence on the bottom either. So it's negative infinity. But on top, I can put, it goes up to 4. So we could write this, you do from least to greatest, so negative infinity is less than y is less than or equal to 4. The easier way, though, is just to write y is less than or equal to 4. It starts at 4, and then it goes down forever and ever. So it's less than or equal to 4. See how this is the same thing, but I just took off the negative infinity? All right, the next one, the left side, no fence. Right side, no fence. So all real numbers. It goes down to -5. But it goes up to infinity. So we write it in our left to right, down and up order. So down would be -5. It touches it, so less than or equal to y is less than infinity. The easier way to write it is if -5 is less than or equal to y, that means y has to be greater than or equal to -5. Okay, so you will glue this in the next page of your journal and then work on yesterday's assignment with domain and range card sort.